Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry SilverlineComics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for SilverlineComics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday on this September 24th, 2023, the year of our Lord. I am your host, Adam Roland Mann. I am joined by only one of my regulars, and we got a host of guests, Roberta Conroy. Say hi, Roberta.
Hi there.
And Roberta and I are joined by Mr. Tom Mason. Say hello, Tom.
Hey, everyone.
And we also have with us a Tuesday regular, Mr. David Rios. Say hi, Dave.
How you doing?
And also a co-host of the Wednesday Wham, Mr. Martin Mertonen. Say hi, Martin.
Hello. I'm a last-minute jump on. So, hey, how's it going, everyone?
For those of you who are wondering why we run through and do that, is that we also turn this into a podcast so that it is audio only, and so we have we make sure that folks can recognize voices as we go on And you can't see our faces on the podcast, which is a shame.
Thank God.
Because no, Roberta's here. They need that.
No,
You're
come
saved by
on.
Roberta. Before we dive in too much, I'm going to hit one more 30-second spot here because most of you know we are part of the Madness Comic Network. I never can get it right. Madness Comics Network. And they're in the middle of a crowdfunder to raise money to put us all on Roku. So what that means is if they can hit their goal, they take all of the shows, including ours, and put it on Roku. And for us, that would mean that we've got an incredibly much larger audience. So I'm going to roll this little 31-second spot right here from Pops.
Yo, Pops Van Zandt here. The Madness Comic Network is evolving into the Madness Roku Network. We're taking our stuff to Roku. We're joining great channels like the American Horrors Channel. We're taking our stuff over there, guys. We love it over there. You're going to love what we bring you. We got some great shows, all kinds of different stuff. Come join the madness, yo. Madness Roku Network right here. Peace.
That's it.
Just back it already.
So if you've got a couple of extra dollars, go on over there and back that Roku crowdfunder. It's on Kickstarter. I think it's on Kickstarter. There's a link. We'll have a link. We'll make sure we have a link in the description so you guys get over there. Tonight we are talking about our title is Guns, Grenades, and Bombs. Oh my. And we're going to talk, we talk about comic books here. So one of the things, and I'm just going to pose this, I'm going to set these guys up, right? So one of the things that, when we talk about superheroes, right? We always think about superheroes having superpowers. And yet we are fans of characters who have no superpowers. They have gun, grenades, and bombs. Oh my, right? So I'm gonna toss out some questions first before we get to any specifics. What do you think if a hero doesn't have superpowers, can they still be a hero?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there are tons of heroes that don't have superpowers. And there are tons of them that do have superpowers but don't use guns or bombs or grenades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I think you can argue that Captain America's shield sort of counts as a gun because he shoots it at people, but
yeah. No. Captain America throws his mighty shield.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Like a bullet.
Yeah. So part of it is in our society, and we're not going to get into the debate, but in our society, we have guns, and there's often the concept that bad guys are the ones who use the guns, etc., etc. So our heroes are using guns. So obviously the first one to come to my mind anyway would be the Punisher, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Guns, and more guns.
No, is he considered a hero or an anti-hero, or is he?
Or is he just a vicious,
He just
killer?
likes guns.
Or
Yeah.
Or is he just practical?
Well, so for those graybeards, y'all remember, the Punisher started off as a antagonist in a Spider-Man story.
Yes.
129.
He was the bad guy, right? I mean, he was the bad guy who Spider-Man fought against.
Oh.
Wasn't he
created by Jerry
wasn't he-
Conway, wasn't he?
I think you're right. I think so.
wasn't he misled by one of the other villains? Was it the Jackal or whatever? Kind of tricked into going after Spider-Man.
What a great Marvel trope that is too, where the villain tricks another guy into being a villain.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't want to be good that badly.
I don't remember that specifically, but that was around the whole Jackal storyline. So that's probably right. I remember his origins. Punisher's origin is more than I remember his fight with Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
They killed his wife. They killed his child. He had no recourse.
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
What else could he? That's right. You know?
It's revenge, baby.
and
It's
it's revenge that
punishment.
keeps it, and he's never satisfied. He has to keep revenging.
That's right. which just reminds me of Mad Magazine's The Revengers. Well, so are we okay? So do we, as readers, do we have a preference for a character that has powers over one that doesn't have powers, or vice versa? And let me while you're chewing on it, let me toss this up. So in DC, you've got Batman and you've got Superman, right? They're kind of the big two. Superman has powers. Batman does not. He has guns, grenades, and bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Somebody was supposed to say, "Oh my, come on!"
Oh my!
I set you up.
You know, I didn't get the script in time.
So here's something to think about is, you know, where exactly would Daredevil fall in that? Because technically he does have powers, but he does not have powers that help him in any physical way. And he doesn't have guns and that, but he does have a billy club.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the magic stick.
He loves that thing.
Magic stick.
But he can use anything around him as a weapon. So I mean, that's just how he is.
Well, and I would say too, though, without his power, he's just a blind dude.
Yep.
But
he was well trained.
Well, yeah, I mean,
he was really well trained. So I don't know about that.
Didn't they at one point
He's not
strip him
just
of his
blind
power
dude.
and just leave him be Daredevil without the power?
Because he can do an awful lot without, you know, super hearing.
Yeah,
but he couldn't
the most
see
buff
you.
lawyer.
Yeah.
But getting back to your original question about Superman and Batman, they are basically the quintessential opposites in the sense that Superman is a invulnerable being from another planet who is impervious to bullets and shoots lasers from his eyes, whereas Batman is as a human can be and uses his smarts in order to do what he needs to do.
But Batman's angrier.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But do we have a preference for one or the other?
Yeah, that's kind of the question.
I don't know that I don't. In the case of Superman and Batman, maybe I do tend to lean towards Batman, except when you have somebody like Jeff Loeb write Superman for all seasons, then I really like Superman. But generally, Superman, meh.
Well, it depends on which version.
But when
of
he's
Superman
done right, he's really good. But like, yeah, do I have a preference one way or the other? I think good stories are good stories, but is that too much of a cop out?
Let me run through some of the comments here while the rest of you are formulating your responses here. Jaden says hello everyone. Hey Jaden. Madness says I'm J.E. If I don't say your last name correctly, I apologize. Corrales says good evening. You have been selected as my Sunday dinner watch time. Well, thank you, J.E. We appreciate that. Hopefully we'll entertain you just as much as Andy Griffith would have. J.E. says the Roku channel concept will be quite a step. I agree, and I think it would be very cool to go onto the Roku channel and to find the madness, and then to be able to see us there, slotted in prime time. Super abilities, extraordinary talents are more impressive than right out powers. So it sounds like Jay, you might be casting your vote for those with no power. Pop says thanks, Roland. Jay says hello, madness. Let's see here. Then Pop says you can score Silverline PDF bundle number ones on the Roku channel. Help us and sample some Silverline comics. That's right. One of the tiers on the Roku Kickstarter includes a bunch of Silverline number ones. So PDF. Yes. So if you go and back that, you get a bunch of our first issues. Jay says, I am of mind that a super talent or extraordinary talent would allow ordinary people to aspire to heroism as opposed to the almost superhuman stuff required as superhumans are involved. Well, who was it? Somebody help me out here. Tom will probably know this. Who was it that made the argument that superheroes exist because supervillains exist? Without a supervillain, there are no superheroes. Who said that?
Because that's sort of the same thing as you can make the same thing about cops or the same thing about most characters on TV. Without a villain, you don't have anything you don't have a mystery to solve. You don't have a puzzle to unravel. You don't have a crime to catch a bad guy. You don't have anything. So the good story, a better story for me is how good the villain is.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of Batman's Batarang or Thor's hammer or Captain America's shield if the villain they go up against is weak? I think it's one of the reasons why we remember villains like the Red Skull, and I'll probably mangle this spelling or this pronunciation, Ra's al Ghul for Batman, or Lex Luthor for Superman. You remember them because they're really good villains, and they're the counterweight to the superhero and whatever drives the hero.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going against me or you, regular human beings, that's not interesting, right? I think I heard you guys on Wednesday say, would you rather fight Alien or Predator? And I think Tom, you said I'm dead either way. So
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get 2 extra seconds if I choose Predator. It's not like I'm gonna outwit either one of those guys.
I can soil myself for 10 seconds more, right?
But are you in space or are you like on a planet in a jungle? That's different. In space,
something interesting.
You might have an edge.
Well, if I would. And here's the thing: I would need, if I had guns, grenades, and bombs against Alien or the Predator, I would still be dead.
Yeah.
So,
oh my.
So so am I the villain or am I the hero?
Well, so either way, you're dead.
Right.
So an interesting thing to note about the superpowers, though, is that the superpower does not make a hero.
Yeah.
The heroism comes from the innate character of the person that's inside of them, and so the heroics come from the what do they stand for?
Yeah. The choice to step up when no one else does.
But the choice is sometimes weird because Superman stepped up because he wanted to help people. Yeah. And Batman stepped up because he wanted to pound some bad guys.
Right. And the Punisher stepped up because he wanted revenge.
Too.
And it conveniently took care of bad guys.
Yeah.
So, but did we determine if everyone else has a preference one way or the other?
I think we determined it's a matter of storytelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, it boils down to character, and I don't mean I meant the character. I mean the character as if they're interesting or not the character of the person of the hero.
Right.
Yeah, it's just am I interested in what the character is, what they're doing, the things that they can do are extra.
There are a lot of tedious characters.
Yes.
That have either no powers and lots of gadgets or lots of powers and no gadgets, and they're just tedious because whoever's writing them or creating them hasn't done,
do we have a tedious example?
No, I'm
not. Tedious or awesome? I have to.
Well, so I part of my thread of questions here is going to be, let's pick out some of the best and some of the worst. Tedious was not part of the list, but we can add
it. Tedious man.
Let me write that down.
He drones on and on.
Yeah, so I think, and that wasn't part of what Martin, what you're talking about earlier. I don't think that was kind of where I intended the conversation to go as about whether the powers or the gadgets make the hero. I don't think that's a different discussion. So for the sake of the guns, grenades, and bombs, right?
Oh my!
Thank you. Let's include things like armor, right? So someone like Tony Stark has no superpower, and yet we all are going to classify Iron Man as a superhero because he puts on the armor, and that gives him the abilities that normal people don't have. Or
added a whole bunch of new comic characters to your list.
Yeah,
but he didn't. But the armor doesn't make Iron Man. Tony Stark's personality makes Iron Man. So it's Tony Stark's sort of genius about how to use the Iron Man armor that makes him interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, there's my favorite version of Iron Man, Prototype.
Of course. Yeah, we should talk Prototype for a minute. And mechanized armor.
You're a cosmic suck up, Roland.
Wait, you're not my boss anymore. Why am I sucking up to you?
Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. You already got the job.
So, all right. So let's.
So Prototype. Let's in.
So Prototype for those who might not know.
Do we have a picture? Throw it up.
No, I don't have. I mean, what?
I'll Google it.
Prepared?
No. You didn't get the time either.
Yeah.
I love coloring that one.
Google Prototype, Ultraverse Prototype. So I'm going to guess that most of the folks listening recognize Tom and Tom's name. Tom was the co-creator of Prototype, right?
Yes.
And co-writer with Lynn Straczewski, of which I edited all but the first couple of issues. And Prototype was Ultraverse's response to Iron Man. He was an armored character.
Yes.
But
Then he was, the thing about him that I liked is that he worked for a corporation where he had basically no say. He was a worker. And so the corporation owned the suit, the corporation owned him, and the corporation told him what to do. And the suit, I believe if I've got this correct, because this came from Len, is that the suit didn't give Jimmy powers. Jimmy was basically a walking bomb, and he would explode or, whatever, if he didn't have the suit to sort of control himself. And so the suit became an outlet to sort of keep his innate abilities under control.
Yeah.
He needed the suit.
He had cyber stuff inside, right?
Yes, he had the stuff that Hudnall came up with, the nanotech stuff.
Yeah, points for Roberta.
Yeah,
nice.
well
done.
Poor Martin. He's the only one.
Martin's Googling right now.
I am.
He's the only one that wasn't part of the Ultraverse that's on this panel.
That's right. Hey, we can fix that. Here we go.
Yeah.
Just kidding, Martin. Just kidding.
No.
Oh, sorry. What I missed that. But I was looking up the Prototype there. So from a concept point of view, it's brilliant. So
Capital P, little O, little
R.
Yeah. Also, Tom, close your ears for a minute. Martin, if you next time you go to a convention, just look in the dollar boxes.
Oh yeah,
they're everywhere.
They are.
Well, I recognize the title. I just don't think I ever picked it up.
Well, there was another Prototype, I think, a DC version of it. So.
Really?
It's nothing like it. It's just the name.
Theirs
totally
came afterwards, didn't it?
Oh yeah. I just don't remember if I ever looked at it, so I don't know what it's about. But
I bet it's about a guy in armor.
It had the name.
So So J.E. says, I guess the first step is to define superpower. Is the mighty Thor as a Norse deity truly endowed with powers? These abilities would be normal to an Asgardian. And I would say, for the sake of our conversation, it has to be human, right? Anything that's beyond human would be a super. So Thor would be,
so alien on Earth.
Yeah. So Kirby's fourth world would not count because those are gods as well.
Right. Yes. Right. You put them here. We couldn't.
Right.
The normal human being couldn't stand it.
Or
Then there's
Supreme-
the overpowered superhero or villain who ought to win every time. This is where the tricks of story. Yeah, of course, absolutely. And then he says, what exactly do the law enforcement officers do in Gotham and Metropolis anyway? Would these superpowered heroes make humans sort of irrelevant?
No, somebody did the paperwork.
Wasn't Harvey Bullock always have a donut in his hand? So maybe it's the donut shop thing they spend most of the time at. Every time I turned around on the animated series, you'd see Harvey chomping on a donut or something. So.
Well, in as much as an overpowered superhero might overtake things, they still can't be everywhere all at once, right? They're not omniscient, so.
And also, they're not doing stupid crimes. So Batman really isn't solving bank robberies anymore. He used to, but he's not anymore. And Superman's not really going up against corrupt politicians who are taking bribes. Those are still sort of generic, get the police involved sort of crimes.
Isn't that like his first episode though? Isn't that it's the first comic story? Wasn't that? Did you do that on purpose? I don't know Superman well enough, but isn't that the first Superman story? He went and got a politician.
Yeah,
that was taking a bribe. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's like somebody smart will type in and just sit and correct me, but it's like the first 10 or 15 Superman stories are basically bank robbers and guys taking government loans that they shouldn't, and arms dealers and stuff like that. It's not really the stuff that we associate with Superman now, because back then Superman was not Superman the God back then, or even Superman the alien. He was really just Superman, like a really strong guy who leaped tall buildings in a single bound and was kind of bulletproof, could stop a locomotive. He was not super duper man.
I think he had the strength of 10 men or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Well, that was the Mighty Hercules, said the strength of 10 ordinary men.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
those
somewhere along the way, I think
were awesome.
Again, some actual historian will hopefully weigh in, but somewhere along the way, I think World War II sort of changed that, and then Superman sort of jumped in and became closer to the Superman that we know now, where he's bending the barrels of German tanks, and he's fighting,
spinning the earth backwards
and all kinds of stuff.
Time.
Yeah, I read something once before on Superman and where it all kind of went wrong. If you're a fan of the classic Superman of the leaping tall buildings, the stopping locomotives, that in the comic sales in the 1950s for superheroes plummeted.
Yeah.
And Superman was one of those books they didn't care about. And the writers of Superman would just start writing these stories and say, well, I need some power. They would write themselves into holes. And Superman didn't have the power to do these things that they needed him to do. So they just gave him he has freeze breath now. He can freeze something, right? Because that's what he needs. And the editors didn't care because Superman wasn't selling. And so they're like, yeah, whatever. You just do whatever you want to. And this all happened in the 1950s because no one cared. And that historian will pop up and correct me too.
Right. You need to have an actual comics historian on call who can just either tell us we're wrong or give us the issue number.
Right.
Because what's funny is, and then there were once I think Mort Weisinger took over as the editor, then Superman really became a series of puzzles where Superman was almost too strong and could solve everything like that, and then it became like, no, I can't use my superpowers to defeat the villain. I must use my super brain and sort of solve this crime like a crossword puzzle, and figure out how to get into the locked room, and have my imaginary wife, and look, I've got a baby now, and it had all these weird pretend stories.
And that's when the rest of us said, "Where's Spider-Man?"
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's why I think when I mean, even I am too young for this, but I think that's when Spider-Man comes out. People are like, "Oh, finally! Thank God Spider-Man's here," because I'm tired of Superman fighting a little baby.
Right. I'm tired of Superman not using his powers.
Right, and I think that's why somebody like Peter Parker resonated with the audience, and I think that's ultimately why the Fantastic Four resonates with the audience, because there's no baby version of the Fantastic Four. There's no imaginary story where Reed and Sue have a little diaper kid and who's causing mischief.
Right.
The closest they get is the Impossible Man, and he doesn't have any powers. He's just an irritant.
Yeah, and he didn't come along though until way later in there. I mean, they were fighting Dr. Doom, Submariner, Galactus. I mean, these were early villains to the Fantastic Four, so they right out of the gate they were fighting bad guys,
and
right
away, Namor is crushing on Sue Storm.
Right.
The very beginning, it's like in issue 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. Submariner looking at Sue Storm going, "Oh yeah." You don't get that in Superman. You don't get that in Batman.
Right. Jay's got a couple of other comments here. He says, "Are mutants truly human then?" I mean, they're human, right? They're just mutated humans. He says, "It is odd. I make the improbable girl and the Wonder Kitty. I have my characters get their powers and explore the idea that they really don't know how to use them, but people take umbrage with that." I'm not sure why somebody would take umbrage with that if they're trying to figure out how to use it. I mean, that's kind of a classic. Yeah. I got powers. Now what am I going to do? Right. How do they work?
Yeah, because I think because a lot of us are like the same kind of thing where if somebody gave us a power, whatever that would be, we'd screw that up like 6 or 7 or 800 times before we even got it right.
That's right.
There are tons of movies and comics and TV shows where somebody gets a power and they're just crashing into a wall, or they they don't know what to do. The Greatest American Hero was a whole TV show based about a guy.
Oh, that was hilarious.
That was funny.
Thanks, Tom. I started humming that in my head. Thanks.
Oh, don't do that.
Believe it or not.
Just leave it. Just leave it.
He had the instruction manual, and they lost the instruction manual for how his costume worked and how the powers worked, and he's just he's flopping all around in the sky and doesn't it's mostly dumb luck. By using his brain, he tries to figure out how he can use his dumb power to solve the murder or whatever.
Right.
I think it's a great trope, and I think J.E. Corrales needs better friends.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so he's got another question here that's going to lead me to the next couple of questions here. He says, "What do you guys want to see with powers or utilities, physical contrivances, gadgets?" So that kind of leads me to my next question. My next question is what do you think as far as gadgets, guns, grenades, bombs?
Oh my!
Thank you. Are the best, and what's some of the worst? I have mine, but I'm gonna but I've been thinking about it. You guys haven't been thinking about it. So thoughts? Any thoughts? What do you think that, as you say, that's probably one of the best non-powered superheroes, or worse?
The best? So wait, I dozed off. What was the question? Are you asking?
We're asking about the character or about the weapon?
The weapons.
The weapons. Let's talk about the weapons, not necessarily the character or the concept. But if you look at a character who uses guns and gadgets, guns, grenades, and bombs.
Oh, for me. I talk too much. Maybe somebody else should talk. But
do you like Hawkeye's bow? And that's his whole thing. Just one.
Well, I mean, Hawkeye would be a great example of a character who is non-powered, who has a gadget, right? Mm-hmm. He has a gun, grenade, or bomb. Mm-hmm. It's just a thing, right? He's just a dude who's really good with a bow.
But also he really has no fear, because you see him hopping around and jumping around, leaping from building to building and jumping into any sort of fight. So he sort of has that heroic mode. I mean, even he does it in the movies, but he also did it in the comics, where he just, he's more than just an arrow guy.
He took on Iron Man.
Right. Yeah, he was not afraid to mix it up.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so I think in terms of practicality, I mean, you always go back to Batman. They've come up with some of the best gadgets you could possibly have for a character, and they're useful, they're practical, and they seem to be even, like, plausible. So he would be in that camp. I would stick Nightwing in that camp. Daredevil, probably.
I think Daredevil has superpowers. I think he is.
But
he's excluded.
Well, if you exclude the superpower, I mean, he has the stick, and then he has a couple of little.
But he's got the superpower, so.
Okay, fine. All right. So maybe the entire Batman move. So like Batman, Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, those guys all have gadgets that are plausible and feasible that seem to be.
Well, I don't say they have to be. I don't think it has to be plausible or feasible.
No,
I just
they
think
don't. But
the character doesn't have any kind of powers, right? That they rely on guns, grenades, and bombs.
Yeah.
So then here's my question. So in the Fantastic Four, I acknowledge they all have superpowers.
Yes.
But they also carry around these giant Kirby machines. Lasers and death rays and all kinds of stuff. And there's pictures, at least in my head, of Reed Richards wrapped around this giant, barrel of a gun. He's aimed at Galactus or Dr. Doom or whomever.
Yeah.
And so even though he can stretch, which is kind of an absurd superpower, he still relies on these massive Kirby weapons to go up against the Krulls or the Scree, the other one, and Dr. Doom and Galactus.
Yeah, my wife said, "Did you notice that I used a Kirby gun for your image?" And I said, "I had not noticed that." She goes, "Yeah, I used a Kirby gun for your Sunday night image." I said, "Oh, thank you so much."
That is funny.
She loves you, Roland.
So here's a question then.
All right.
and it's a borderline. What about Green Lantern? Because Green Lantern does not use traditional guns, gadgets, and all that. He is using essentially a superpower, but yet he does not have.
It's an artifact
a superpower
with a superpower.
Yeah, which is a lot like Our Man or Dr. Fate. Right?
Yeah, because their power comes from
a gizmo.
A gizmo, yeah.
Or Ibis, because Ibis the Invincible relies on whatever that magic diamond cone stick of his is. Don't know much.
So I started thinking about him when we were talking about, or when Martin was talking about Batman, and yes, he's got some really clever gadgets and all that stuff. But on the flip side, you see, a lot of Green Lantern, and a lot of his stuff that he conjures up is pretty goofy off the bat, but effective. So
yeah,
that's what kind of led me into that. So
unless there's yellow around,
right? So are you saying, David? Are you saying then that you cast a vote for Green Lantern as having the coolest gadget?
No. I totally agree with Martin that the Bat Family has some of the coolest gadgets. And along those lines, I'd consider kind of Grendel with his stuff well, along those lines.
Yeah.
Good weapons.
But I just didn't want to discount that you had Green Lantern, which, in my opinion, a lot of his stuff, probably most of his stuff, was a little too goofy for me.
So
like,
oh look, I've made a giant hammer to pound the alien. Where would you put the Rocketeer? Because he had a gun, and he had a jetpack,
rocket pack.
Yeah,
I'd say because he doesn't have any superpowers. I would say he was a gadget guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He depended on Alan Arkin to make that suit for him.
Let's be clear. We're not arguing that these characters are not superheroes, right?
Right.
Because that's a whole other argument. But what for all of these characters that use these gadgets, right? What in your mind, what do you think is the coolest, and then what might be the dumbest? So I'm gonna go with the dumbest, right? Well, you guys think a little bit. So for me, it's Paste Pot Pete, right?
Oh, come on.
Do you guys remember Paste Pot Pete?
Yes, he cared.
I don't.
So basically, he had this big pack that shot goop.
In his earlier ones, though, he actually carried a bucket. And he had a gun with a hose that went into the bucket. And that was his cape.
It was shot glue, right?
Yeah.
What are
Are you sure
crystals called?
was he associated with Condiment King or something like that?
No. This was it was a Spider-Man
Soaker.
villain.
Yeah.
So he had super soakers before super soakers were a thing.
Yes. But it was glue.
It's probably where the guy got the idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right,
that's your dumb one.
So that's my dumb one. So Tom, you knew Paste Pot Pete, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I've never seen that character.
What?
Roberta, did you know Paste Pot Pete?
No, never.
Just
I-
they changed his
looked
name
him-
after a while.
I looked him
They
up.
liked the
I
idea.
looked him up, and after looking at his picture, yeah, I remember his silly outfit. So yes.
Okay, all right, yeah. Yeah. He's just a big goop guy.
Yeah. But he doesn't have goop powers. He carried a bucket of goop with him.
Right, yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, take his bucket away,
right.
and he's just a dude,
Yeah.
right? So
right.
for me, that was I of all the gadget people, that's the dumbest.
That's pretty
right?
dumb.
It is pretty dumb.
Well, Peter Petrusky, was that his? Wow, no. And then he became the Trapster, or is Trapster something else?
Well, they changed his name. He wasn't Paste Pot Pete after a while because somebody said we should bring back this stupid guy, but let's give him a real villain name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a
Looks like
Trapster. I'm looking
Yeah,
at
and
it.
he's
They
now-
renamed
yeah.
him as the Trapster. Okay. Wow.
And be sure you look for his early costumes, not the.
He looks like a painter, a purple painter.
What about Captain? What about Captain Boomerang?
Captain Boomerang.
He's Australian. He throws the boomerang.
Yeah. So is that stupid or is that cool?
Well, that's
His outfit was awful.
Are you asking us to form your opinion?
Right.
Yeah, I'm asking you guys. Is that stupid or cool?
I think what Martin's trying to say.
Wasn't
From one Canadian to another, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, like he had a terrible outfit, but is a boomerang cool?
It's cooler than glue.
Yes,
it's about as
cooler than
cool
glue.
as Captain America's shield.
But
Because
he's not
Captain
a
Shield comes
superhero.
back,
He's
right?
He's a villain.
I've always I've always thought Captain America's shield was part boomerang because it did come back.
Pretty much was.
If we're talking about villains, I mean, you can
It
stop
could be-
the big wheel.
The big wheel.
Yeah,
I don't
one
know
of
that one.
Spider-Man's villains. One of Spider-Man's villains, the big wheel.
Is that a little 3-wheeled car that you drive in, or is that like a giant wheel?
It's like a giant wheel.
Because Blackhawk.
Roland's looking it up.
I am looking it up.
The War Wheel, which was like a multi-barrel tank that rolled around on one giant wheel.
That looks like it had to have been one of J. Jonah Jameson's contraptions. I'm looking at it now. I found it on Pinterest. Big wheel, Marvel Comics.
Spider-Man 183's cover.
So I'm cheating right now. I'm trying to find some super powered people with
I think
silly gadgets.
Well, as a kid, I loved Batman as the gadget gizmo character. But the older me, I really loved the Rocketeer because I liked that 1930s look. I liked the Dave Stevens artwork, and I liked the design of the Rocketeer, and I like the fact because I mean, really, maybe it's just me, but who among us hasn't wanted to fly with the ability of like a jetpack
Of course,
without burning off our behinds? And so I think that, and then when I saw the movie, which I still think is pretty good, it brought all that stuff to life. So you know, the old cars and the old clothing and the gun and the backpack and the mask. That I like the whole look of Rocketeer. I think it's a fully formed superhero or hero.
And of course,
but
now
how many gadgets did he actually have? So.
With the jetpack, you really only need one.
Two, right? The gun and the jetpack.
Yeah, the gun and jetpack. Yeah. And then the helmet so that bugs don't poke your eyes out as you hit them.
Hey, it's a rudder. Remember, it's a rudder.
Sure. Right.
Steering the mechanism.
So. And you just never smile while you're flying, right? So they don't get bugs don't get in your teeth.
That's right. You don't open your mouth. It's rule. You learn that on the first day.
Rocketeer's a good one.
It is. I love the style of that one.
Yeah.
Does anyone else like Dr. Octopus? I like his gadget.
I'm
thought
a
it was cool.
huge fan of Dr. Octopus.
The thing I like about Dr. Octopus is that he is like all the great Ditko villains of that era. He looks incredible. Like you don't who aside from Ditko is going to come up and say, "Hey, you know what this guy needs? 4 more arms."
Yeah.
And it could easily be stupid like Paste Pot Pete as you're pitching it and talking about, "Hey, I got this idea for an octopus guy. He's got 4 extra arms." And you think that's not going to work. It's a terrible idea. But then you see it in the comic and you see that the way Ditko created him, he's sort of this tragic hero who for some reason loves an old lady.
And it works. The way he moves, the way the tentacles carry him around, it works.
Because when you see him in the Spider-Man movies, by now I can't think of the guy's Alfred Molina.
Yeah. He was good.
Isn't he? And the way they make him move, the way they work the octopus arms is sensational. And the scenes, I think it's one of the more recent movies where he returned, is he's just standing there on his octopus legs, and his real human body is just sitting there going arms folded, and he's like, "Hello, Peter."
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. He and I think Mysterio is a really good Ditko villain.
Yeah.
Because you can't really see his face. And I think
creepy.
Yeah, all those early creepy Ditko villains from Spider-Man are really solid.
Now, so the question is, do you think that Ditko had just watched an episode of Lost in Space when he was designing them? Because those arms look just like the robots.
Right. He wouldn't he?
Oh yeah.
Forbidden Planet. Yeah.
Actually, that poses a new thought. I got to go back and look at. So all these are early Spider-Man villains. So you think about the Vulture. The Vulture didn't have powers; he had wings. So did all the early Spider-Man villains? Were all of the early ones non-superpower? Are they all gadget-related villains?
I don't remember.
Well, again, we need
not
a story, but I think.
Well,
I think you can make the case that it's sort of what makes, because except for the spider powers, Peter is kind of a gadgety sort of guy, using his webbing, to create certain things, and always locking in his camera with the webbing so he can take pictures of the fight. But yeah, it's interesting that a lot of, I won't say all because somebody will smart off at me, but I think a lot of the early Spider-Man villains under Ditko are gadget guys.
Yeah.
Well, you got like the Shocker. Sorry, not the Shocker. Electro. Electro had powers. He was a villain. He had powers.
Yeah.
Shocker was manufactured, but Green Goblin, he's kind of
Green Goblin, definitely,
because he was human, but then he did augment himself
No, he
with
started human, but he didn't stay that way. So
Right.
yeah.
But he had gadgets. He had the
He was a
pumpkin
gadget.
bombs, and he had that
oh
flying
yeah, of
sled.
course.
Yeah.
made
So
everything.
he did have cool gadgets, and I think he's another great visual of a villain that you didn't see up until that time, of a guy who was flying through the sky on this weird sort of goblin-esque
And throwing pumpkins at you.
sort of
They're all
pumpkin.
pumpkin. I love those pumpkin
Another thing,
bombs.
if you pitch it to me, if you say, "Hey Tom, I got an idea for a villain," he flies around on a goblin sled and throws pumpkins at people, you would think, "Oh no, that's not going to work."
No.
That's stupid.
Right. But they make it work.
But then they have all those gases, and that's really funny.
Right.
Yeah. JE says, what about Mr. Canoe Head? All right, I gotta Google that one
Google
too.
that.
Mr. Canoe Head? That's from Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
No, it's Mr.
yeah.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah.
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 All right. He also says, mild-mannered barista Tim Horton discovers his mystic throw-in crawler and caffeinated shield of power takes on the mantle of the Avenging Avenger.
Somebody's Canadian.
Yes.
All right. So, what about it? Any other votes for favorites or stupid?
I'm trying to come up with stupid, but it's very hard to find a hero with a stupid gadget.
Thing?
Well, there is.
I mean, I guess Green Lantern.
Arm fall off Boyd. Yeah. There is.
Green Arrow with his boxing arrow.
Yeah.
He pulls off his arm and beats you with it.
Arm fall.
Who's that?
It was a DC character.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he in the last Suicide Squad movie?
Yeah.
Well, Nathan Fillion's character was.
Nathan Fillion was Arm Fall Off Boy. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
it's like
really
PDC or something like that.
But it's so this goes back to that's not a gadget, is it? I mean, his arms fell off.
But you can take if I can pull my arm off and beat you with it, and then put my arm back on, is my arm a gadget? Where do you draw the line? It's basically Daredevil's Billy Club. It's in hand form.
Oh, here's a Powdered Toast Man. I remember Powdered Toast Man.
Oh yeah, that's from Crick Falusi from Ren and Stimpy.
Okay.
Now, what was that movie? What was that movie with Ben Stiller and his heroes there?
Mystery Men.
Mystery Men. Yeah. No. If you
the shoveler, he has the power of a shovel or something.
So if you want stupid, there you got stupid. So.
Inspector Gadget. Now I thought Inspector Gadget was. I don't think he was stupid.
No.
But also
another song I don't want in my head. Thank you.
The character was stupid, but his gadgets were pretty cool.
But the show was designed to be kind of stupid because it was Don Adams doing the voice.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it was basically an extension
hero.
of his show there. The previous show.
He was sort of
Don Adams and the roving reporter.
He was sort of like a Get Smart kind of guy crossed with Inspector Clouseau.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but he had one of the greatest villains, Dr. Claw. Frank
I don't remember Gadget well enough. I have images of his hands and legs stretching out though.
Yeah.
So was that a power or
it was stuff.
Well, he was like a robot. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah. So
I don't think I knew that he was a robot dude.
Well, it's never really explained.
Like
he just happens to have arms that extend and legs that do things and has things coming out of his head. And
he just happened to have?
Yeah, it just happened to have. It's never explained as to, but you get the sense that he's human, but he has robotic elements in him. But it wouldn't be a power.
He's like Nixon in the jar in Futurama.
Sure.
Where he's alive, but he's in a jar.
Right.
So Inspector Gadget's brain is somehow in his robot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's okay because Penny's the one that always solved everything anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
So Inspector Gadget himself was stupid, but his stuff was pretty cool.
But Penny and Brain, the
Brain,
dog,
yep.
solved all the crimes. Yeah,
There you go.
it's kind of like on Hong Kong Phooey, right? What was the cat's name? Cat solved did all the work. Yeah, I
So
can't remember the cat's name.
it's pretty easy to come up with cool gadgets. It's really difficult to come up with silly gadgets. I mean,
Well, I think
unless you want to go to the villains.
No, you go to the Batman TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got
shark repellent.
There you go.
That's pretty stupid.
And you got to label it that shark repellent so everybody knows.
So Tom, anytime we mention Batman, I have to say this, and I don't know that I've ever asked you this question. Have you ever seen Lego Batman?
Oh my God, yes. I love
that. Best Batman movie ever. I make Batman fans mad when I say that. Best Batman movie ever. Lego Batman.
It has all the great elements of a Batman story. They're in all the right order.
Yep.
And it has depth of character. It has heart. It has comedy. It has great villain dynamic with the hero, and the voice Will Arnett is fantastic. And when he shows up as Batman in the Lego movie, it's hysterical.
Yeah. See, I hadn't seen that before seeing the Batman movie. My son had, but I had no idea what to expect when we went to see the Lego Batman. I'd played the Lego Star Wars with him, so I kind of had an idea what it would look like. But I had zero expectations going into that movie, and I'm like, best Batman movie ever.
Now, my oldest son, when he was like 12 or 13, we were at Chris Alm's house. We watched it like 5 times over 2 days.
That's great.
We couldn't get enough of it. And it's a thing where, as a parent, you're supposed to say, oh God, not this again. And it's like, no, let's.
No, you love it.
Yeah. I'm all in. Let's,
that's because it's Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Yes.
Just the genius of those guys, who also, by the way, did the Across the Spider-Verse stuff.
Right.
So they don't get enough.
Guys, they should have been allowed to hang around the Han Solo movie, but they got booted off that.
Yes, they did.
I'm still angry. I hold a grudge.
So J.E. says, but does Lego Batman have any of the following? Bat credit card, bat nipples, an amazing appearing and disappearing Robin, or the Governor?
No, that's what makes him great.
Yeah. You know what? I do think Bat Nipples is in there, though. I think as he's scrolling through the costumes.
Right. Yes.
I think Bat Nipples is in there.
There's also, I don't know if it's in the game or in the Batman movie, but one of those also has the shark repellent. It's one of the
it's in Lego Batman.
It's in Lego Batman.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Pretty much every Batman trope you can think of is in Lego Batman.
It is, and it is fantastic.
So,
and I have a. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
I was gonna say I have in my display case. I have a section about this big, that's all builds from the Lego Batman movie.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Characters and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
And you don't have it on camera? What's the deal?
Wait, why isn't that your backdrop? What's wrong with
I will take a picture and I'll put it up on our.
Yes, do that. All Legos technically have nipples.
They're called bricks.
That's right.
That's how they connect to
No,
others.
but we can't say bricks because bricks means something else as well. Martin, what were you going to say?
All right, so I was just going to get back to the guns, gadgets, and bombs. Oh my! So what in your mind is the coolest gadget, or for you? You've mentioned the dumbest.
Yeah.
I'm finding it difficult to find a dumb one, but so what's the coolest one?
I'm going to go with Iron Man. I'm going to go with the idea that a guy puts on a suit. It gives him the ability to fly to. He's not quite invulnerable, but you and I could pound on him and he wouldn't feel it. And he's got repulsor rays. Right. for me, I find if you offer me any number of gadgets, I'm stepping in the armor. That's the first one I'm taking.
And,
The ultimate dad hero.
Who am I taking out?
Yeah, right.
Gee, where's my list?
Well, think about it though. You've got Batman has got all the gadgets, the weapons, and all this handheld stuff. But then he's also got his suit of armor. He's got his anti-Superman. He's got his underwater stuff.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of really cool.
Yeah, but Batman has to go.
This. No, I was going to say, let me add this about Iron Man. He is at the mercy of the tech that is controlling the suit with him.
Yeah. Right. Oh, wait. So you're saying like the AI tech?
The AI tech could go amiss. And so, it could be a sabotaging situation where, Batman stuff usually works pretty well. It just there.
Well, and I think Batman stuff is fairly short term. So like the Batarang and the shark repellent or whatever, it's one and done. And
and here this and on top of that, Tom, one of the things I would add, right? So Batman's out doing his Batman thing. Superman shows up. He has to say, "Hang on, Superman, I got to go change into my anti-Superman bat suit," right? Iron Man's already ready.
Right. He'll throw down in a moment. Well, those are the stupid elements of comics.
Yeah, but take Iron Man up into space and then he freezes and then that's
right.
But yeah, he's got the antifreeze running around in the system, so he's good.
So I will. I'm going to go with Batman because I want to drive the Batmobile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I like ever since I was
I
a
like
kid,
the Batmobile so much.
Because my first car was a Mustang, and so I love the idea of just the open road and my Batmobile, and being behind the wheel. How Batman's able to go fast in a city environment, I don't know.
Yeah,
but man, that the tumbler from the movie,
right?
I want to ride the Bat Pod.
I
want to ride the Bat Pod.
I'll go in. I'll use them all. I'll go in the Bat Copter. Right. I'll go in the Bat Jet Ski. I'll go in the all of it.
The Bat Pole.
I will not go in Wonder Woman's
Invisible. Jet. Why? You'd be
lame.
It would be like flying with the birds.
It's lame.
Yeah, but people could see up my pants.
That's right. Because it doesn't make you invisible. It's just invisible.
Right. Yeah, I'm just sitting there flying through the sky like an idiot. I've got these dotted lines around me.
Exactly.
Jay says, "Okay, folks, I gotta go draw. Thanks for tolerating my nonsense. And he hit return. Jay, thanks for hanging out with us while you were. I think you said you were eating your Sunday dinner hangout. So thanks for hanging out with us. We're here every Sunday at the same time. I should say every Sunday. Most Sundays we're here at the same time. So hang out with us again if you get the inclination."
He didn't offer us any dinner.
He did not.
He
did not. We'll have to remember that next time he shows up. Ask him if he brought enough for all of us.
Right.
That's what teachers say, right? So my final question then, unless somebody has something else to say before I ask the final question.
All right.
I had something about Iron Man, but I forgot.
You might remember. So as someone who makes content, as someone who comes up with some of this stuff, what do you think the purpose of giving someone gadgets is as opposed to giving them the power? So for instance, and I'll use Iron Man since Iron Man is who I said had the coolest. What's the purpose of putting Iron Man in armor instead of just, well, why not just give him the power to shoot, blast out of his hands? We have characters that do that, right? So why not just give him the power to fire rays from his hands and to fly? What do you think some of the purposes are? And does it make sense? And is it good?
Because Iron Man originally, so back in the old days of the Bronze Age, Iron Man needed the suit to survive. Tony Stark needed the Iron Man suit to keep his heart pumping because of the mysterious shrapnel that couldn't be pulled out.
Right.
So the suit had to become a part of him for like Aquaman couldn't be out of the water for an hour. Iron Man, Tony Stark couldn't be out of the Iron Man suit for very long. or couldn't sustain trauma to his chest because he had the weird shrapnel in there. So I think the suit in the early days, the suit performed that function for him, where it was his iron lung, basically.
Yeah.
And so now it's different. We also saw Tony Stark take the shrapnel out, and
yeah,
you know, the suit is now a thing that he wears.
Well, I think a lot of it was due to the fact that, you know, not oversaturating the market, you know, having everybody have superpowers. It was a unique take on the character to give them, you know, variety and depth. So,
and I think that's a great point, because one of the things that happened with Superman with DC is that any superhero that sort of looked like Superman, DC was going to sue them.
Yeah.
And so because they sued Captain Marvel out of business, and they sued Will Eisner's Amazing Man out of business. And so I think there's a reluctance on people at that time to go with the superhero for fear of DC's legal department. Whereas it's much easier to have gizmos and gadgets and stuff, and DC can't do anything about it. So that may be one reason why there's a proliferation of gadget heroes.
All comes down to attorneys, doesn't it?
Well, I think
well, it also looks cool, right?
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I think a part of it is vulnerability. If you have characters that are completely invulnerable all the time, that's you have no drama, right? So there's no, like, if you can't destroy the character, or if the character can't be hurt, or if the character can't have, you know, can't be reaching for something, like in order for Superman to be interesting, they had to create kryptonite, right? So they had to have this external thing to make him vulnerable somehow. So if you give your characters, instead of giving them a superpower, you give them gadgets, and then if they rely on the gadgets, such as Iron Man has to rely on that. Like, what happens when something malfunctions or something fails? Like, is he going to make it? How is he going to, you know, now we've built up the drama, we've built up the tension, we've built up the, you know, added component to the storyline that, so not only is he dealing with his villain, or not only is he dealing with his other issues, he's dealing with the fact that, am I going to survive? Right. So there's always that thing. And it also makes it relatable. So, because it's more real, it's more down to earth, and I probably feel the same way if I had that situation for me.
There's a point. There's a point Roland made early on.
Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. There's a point that Roland made early on about character, and I think one of the things that is true about gadget characters, especially Batman, is they have all these gadgets, and the puzzle of how they use them, when they use them, and what they use them for is part of a thing that reveals their character, how smart they are under pressure. You know, is this a Batarang moment, or is this a shark repellent moment, or is this do I need sleep gas, or do I need, you know, what do I need? And so I think it doesn't. In the early Batman comics, Batman was using his gadgets more to get himself out of trouble than he was to directly fight the villain.
Right.
And I think that shows that reveals parts of his personality and how he acts under pressure and what he chooses to use. Whereas the Flash is just like, I'll run around fast and I'll
I'll create a dust storm.
Right. That's right. Or a Green Lantern with, I'll make a yellow hammer.
Right. Yeah.
Or a green hammer, I guess.
Hyper says, who is the greatest comic book hero, and why is it Sergeant Rock?
Because the Germans could not defeat him.
That's right. For those, you guys probably recognize Hyper. He's a regular for us. Hyper is definitely a Silverliner. Thanks for stopping by, Hyper. And we've had several Silverline art. Hyper's probably got the biggest collection, as far as I know, of Sergeant Rock drawings from different artists. I know that he has had, he has had several of our Silverline artists when they've offered up commissions during our Kickstarters and everything. Right. He'll get a commission and he'll have them do Sergeant Rock.
But not the Ice Cream Soldier, not Little Sure Shot. Not
just Sergeant Rock.
not the others. All right.
All right. So, any other thoughts on gadgets, guns, grenades, and bombs?
I got nothing.
Well,
I've learned my
I think
lesson.
we had a fascination from that kind of stuff for the early time, the pre-World War II times in comics.
Yeah.
It developed a love of trying to take care of yourself and be a warrior, soldier, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and those are one of my things I was going to talk about. Those are weapons of traditional warriors, right? To the soldiers. And so when you equip somebody with, guns, grenades, and bombs, they're what are they taking on the persona of a soldier, a warrior? Does that have any bearing, any meaning? I don't know the answer to that, but it's a question.
It's the great equalizer. And so if you're going up against Galactus, how big a gun do you need?
You need a Kirby gun.
You need a Kirby gun. And I think the great thing about the comic book guns is sometimes the more ridiculous they look, the cooler they are. And because the Kirby stuff looks sort of ridiculous on the face of it, but in the context of the stories, it's like you look at those double page spreads of Kirby with all his machines and his weapons, and you think, man, that stuff is great. I wish that
so
stuff
cool.
really worked.
Yeah.
And even Liefeld is sort of an extension of that with the big guns of Bishop and Cable and all the Liefeld characters.
Yeah.
They're huge. There's no way they can work. There's no way you could carry them. There's no way. There's no holster big enough that can contain them.
They just put them in the pouches.
Right. They look. Well, that's where the ammo is. But they're goofy and they're fun and they're ridiculous, but they're visually just as incredible as Kirby stuff.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Tom, you got bonus points, Tom, for knowing more Easy Company characters. Coolness elevated yet again. And that hyper is why you stopped by here.
That's right. For the next time I'm on, I'll do another Sergeant Rock reference for you.
Nice.
All right. Anybody else? Any other final thoughts?
Well, if you're creating new characters, give them gadgets, but to make them plausible and related to what they do. So
Plausible in their world or plausible in our world?
both.
Yeah.
Like if you look at something like, now he's not necessarily a superhero, but look at James Bond. Oh, the James Bond reference.
That was coming somehow.
I'm going to create a bingo card.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you look at James Bond, like a lot of the stuff that initially they were in the movies as like, everyone thought, hey, how clever was that? And then you find out later that like, well, they actually invented some of that stuff and stuck it in real life, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there are some things that might be in the comics that could be.
Well, that's a whole
actually
another
Well,
argument.
You mean
still,
like
we're
Dick
still
Tracy?
waiting for blasters.
That's right.
Yeah, Dick
Don't
Tracy.
quite have them yet.
But I think the thing about James Bond is he used his gadgets and gizmos to get out of small trouble, but he never used them to actually defeat the big villain.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the key to gadgets. You don't want to be so dependent on gadgets that you solve everything with just like, oh, I have X, Y, or Z. I can defeat anybody with those things. And I think that's the key to using gadgets and gizmos. You have to figure out a way to use them so that you don't just stop the villain right away.
Right.
Unless you have a Kirby gadget, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Kirby
Gadget.
Or a
And you
missile.
just blow the hell out of somebody.
I want a Maxwell Smart shoe phone.
I'm sure they make those.
Probably do.
You just cut a hole in your shoe and put a iPhone in there.
That's right. Yeah.
The iShoe.
Wow.
All right. Any? Let me get into the calendar here. You guys got anything? Any appearances? Tom, Martin, David.
I'm going to be in the
Roberta?
kitchen later this evening making dinner. If anybody wants to stop by.
All right. What's for supper?
Oh, I'm today. I'm having a tossed salad.
A tossed salad, all right.
Because I'm lazy.
But is that going to satisfy the teens?
Oh, the teens are not here today.
Oh, okay, all right. So you don't have to. So they're not. They're probably going to eat pizza somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch the end of the football game and eat salad like a liberal.
Okay. Anybody else? On Tuesday, you guys don't forget to hang out with our squad on Tuesday. They're going to be talking about building an online presence, web, comics, and social media. Hang out with Tim TK, Dave, Cassisi, and
Jose.
Thank you, Jose. Oh man, I hope Jose's not listening. I'm sorry, Jose.
Isn't the key to creating an online presence starting 10 years ago?
Pretty much, yeah. But if you have to start today, Dave, remember that's one of the things you guys got to cover. If you're starting today, what do you do?
Okay.
Right. And then Wednesday, Wham! Comics 20 years in the future. They're going to talk about what they anticipate comics will look like 20 years in the future, from the illogical to the absurd. That's on Wednesday, Wham! We will be back here next week, and we're going to talk about superheroes who kill. Are they really heroes? So, yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
That's great.
How many really kill, though? Are there a lot?
There could be a lot.
You know, I remember, you may remember this, because I think it was when I was still at Malibu. You know, Captain America killed. And I thought that would never happen.
That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. It was a huge deal. And, you know, Superman killed in one of his movies.
Man of Steel, he killed Zod.
Thank you. Yeah. He
snapped his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our discussion for next week. You guys want to join in? All of you out there, you want to join in and leave your comments, please. We are going to talk about are they really heroes? Until next time, you guys remember what to do.
Make mine Silverline.
Make mine Silverline.
Make mine Silverline too.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios, and make mine Silverline.